Hello class, my name is Jacob Evans. I'm going to talk to you today about my case, Less Heat, More Light. It's case 1.2. I chose this particular case because it kind of fits into some real life experiences I've had, and I'll touch more on those later. Basically what this case talks about, details, is the difference between a 120 percenter and an 80 percenter. What's a 120 percenter? A 120 percenter is somebody that we would call a workaholic. You know, typical work week in the United States, 40 hours. So a 120 percenter is somebody that's going to go above and beyond that and go ahead and, you know, they're going to work 50 hours. They're going to put in a Saturday. Now, on the contrary, an 80 percenter, somebody that does the opposite of that, somebody that's going to work, 32 hours. They're going to work 4 days. Monday through Thursday is what the case argues for. Mr. Denton says his next company is going to be all 80 percenters. All people that work Monday through Thursday going to have Fridays off. Some of the reasons for this, some of the reasons against it, in my personal feelings, I'll attempt to answer the following 3 questions. What is the difference between a workaholic and someone who works hard? Do you think reducing the work week or hiring more part-time workers will improve people's lives and make the workplace more productive? And what is the relationship between the meaning of work and moral behavior in the workplace? Okay, those are the 3 big questions for this case. Let me explain a little bit about the case. Mr. Denton was working for a .com, an online company, and you know, he said it was typical. It was being 120 percenter was like a thing that people was excited to be. That's what they wanted to be. He tells stories of people who showed up with sleeping bags because they planned on sleeping under their desk. He later goes on to say that company basically went bankrupt. So, what do you think? I mean, 120 percenter, you know, you've got a whole company full of people putting in all this extra work. How does that relate to the product, the productivity? He then goes on to talk about 80 percenters, okay? And 80 percenters and 120 percenters basically do not like each other. 120 percenter says the biggest problem is that 120 percenter is going to dislike the idea of having to present information to somebody who's absent. And I can understand that. I get it. The reason I chose this case is that it relates to me. I coach football, and I have been now for 5 years at the high school level. And one thing, coaches, I don't think this is localized. I think this is probably worldwide, but coaches put in a lot of time, and taking an honest look back, I wonder how much of that time was productive. How much was we really accomplishing by being there for 8 hours on a Saturday morning, and then 4, 5, 6 more hours on a Sunday? Could we have got that same amount of work done in, say, 4 hours on Saturday? I think that 120 percenters, whether it be in the business world, in the coaching profession, whatever we're talking about, they have some problems. You have to be a 20 percenter. I'm going to give you give you 3 reasons why 120 percenter has to be a 120 percenter. First of all, if you're a 120 percenter, there's a good chance you're not very disciplined, and I'll explain that. To be an 80 percenter, you have to be very disciplined with your time and using it effectively. Oftentimes, we'd be there just wasting time, just there. The 120 percenters don't like the ideal of people having a life outside of their job. when I started coaching, I had a girlfriend. That girlfriend is now my wife, and we now have 3 children. So I have a lot of stuff going on outside of that responsibility. So I don't really enjoy being there. I don't really have the free time to just sit there and waste anymore. Having a life outside of work requires you to be disciplined with your time. Right now, I'm in my basement filming this video. This is about my 5th take because the kids keep running in here and wanting to talk to me and be on film. So time management is essential if you want to be an 80%er. Second problem, 120%ers have too many psychological needs invested in the company, in the business, in the job. The good thing about being an 80%er is you're task oriented. You're focused on getting your job done. Now, does that mean that you're not upset if something goes wrong, or it doesn't bother you if the company or the team or the business does not do it? Of course not. Of course not. You know, as a coach or as an employee of a company, if my employee or my team does bad, that affects me. But it's not going to cause me to sleep for 2 hours a weekend and go and bang on my laptop for 30 hours watching film or brainstorming ideas for a new product or something like that. That's the beauty of being an 80%er. You're task oriented. The third thing, and this sounds funny. The 80%ers are more loyal. The 80%ers are more loyal. The reason 80%ers are more loyal is once you find a great job, a job that you love, a job that you care about, a job that gives you plenty of time off, a job that you look forward to coming to because you know you're not going to be there, you know it's not going to consume your life, you're more loyal to that job. It's easier to leave a job that demands every waking second of your time and attention than it is to leave a job where you got plenty of time to have a life. You enjoy it more. Therefore, you're more loyal to it. Kind of sounds funny, but think about that one. So, what is the difference between a workaholic and someone who works hard? You can be a hard worker and not work hard. I tried to explain to my brother this concept about how these online classes work. He's like, well, why don't you just get all your stuff done for each week on one day? I'm like, well, I can't do that. I can't do that. At a certain time, putting in more time lowers my productivity. Therefore, at the end of the day, I've got less done. So being a workaholic means just putting in a ton of hours. Okay, someone who works hard, you can be a hard worker and put in very little time and get the same results. It's efficiency. It's efficiency. Do you think that reducing the work week or hiring more part-time workers will improve people's lives and make the workplace more productive? I do. I do believe that. Reading the case, looking at some of the examples they give, I think that's the way to go. We're seeing more and more people working from home, people working non-traditional hours, satellite type jobs where they're there, but they're there electronically. I think that's the future. I think we're going to see more and more of that, and less of the traditional, hey, I need you here, punching the time card at 8 o'clock, Monday through Saturday, 10 hours a day. Other countries, European countries, are proving, and have been since the 70s, that more time does not always mean more productivity. I believe it was France, the United Kingdom in the 1970s. They had to go to a 3-day work week because they were having an energy crisis. Their productivity barely dropped. Now that's that's less than an 80%er. But you're talking about a very, very marginal decrease in what they were able to do, because they're using their time more efficiently. And finally, what is the relationship between the meaning of work and moral behavior in the workplace? Well, I'll use virtue ethics to kind of help explain this. A couple I chose: courage, self-control, honesty. To be an 80%er, it takes a little bit of courage because it's non-traditional. Anytime you're doing anything that's different from the norm, it takes a little bit of courage. I've discussed self-control. You got to have self-control. You've got to have time management. You've got to have excellent communication skills because you have less time to communicate. Therefore, the message must be more clear. And you have to be honest. You can't be an 80%er and be a dishonest person, to be somebody who's just there to rip the company off, just there, you know what I mean? You have to be honest. You have to give honest effort to get your work done, or else you're going to wind up being a 120%er. I hope that the way I talked about this case makes sense to you guys. I look forward to writing the paper. Have a good day.